still says waiting. Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm live. I'm live. Yes, I am. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this live stream on the Pope's health. I don't want to sound too chipper, but well, I'm not. I kind of like feel fairly neutral about this. But I'll go into details about my own feelings. But anyway, how are you all? I want to say hello, DJ and B2. How are DJ B2? Audio and visuals are good. Yeah, thank you very much. Cosmic Claire. I guess the Conclave movie was a warm-up pact. Yes, I'm very glad I saw that now, Claire. I am very glad I saw that film. I really am. Teddy Border Collie. Hi, how you doing, Teddy Border Collie? I like your name. DJ Butu's brought up the inevitable. Let's see if St. Malachi's prophecy of the popes pans out. Yes, we will be talking about that. We will indeed. Yes, we'll be going into the whole St. Malachi thing. Is there going to be another pope after this one pops his clogs, etc.? Exactly. Anyway, hello, Observer. How do you do? He's still with us. Yes, in fact, since I posted a notice, there has been an update. It's good news. I'll go into that in a minute. Hello, Lance Corporal. Welcome. And now it says the last pope. Well, if St. Malachi is correct, yes. Well, we'll have a look into that, won't we? But anyway, let's just look at the latest news. Right, and we'll go into all the latest updates. I'll find the most recent update for you. Hello, Phuket. How you doing, mate? You all right? The most recent update is this one, 50 minutes ago. This is STV News. Pope Francis remains in a critical but stable condition. Now, it says here that this. I don't believe all this. Not all this can possibly be true. Pope Francis remains in a critical but stable condition. He's resumed work while doctors are monitored him for bilateral pneumonia. Pope Francis continues to. He's battling a lung infection and the early stages of kidney insufficiency. But he's resumed work. He actually phoned up a priest in Gaza who's having to cope with basically the bombing and the destruction of buildings and people dying and things like that. Holy Father's clinical condition remains critical but stationary. No acute respiratory episodes occurred, and hemodynamic parameters continue to be stable. Right, I think that refers to the blood, because there was a doctor on the news talking about how they were concerned about things in his blood, like the platelets count apparently was rising, and which could indicate an infection, sepsis, which is a very common cause of death. In the morning, after receiving the Eucharist, he resumed work. He's on 6. I think he's on 10 liters of oxygen a minute. He was on like much higher levels before. Doctors describe Francis' condition as touch and go, given his age, fragility, and pre-existing lung disease. He had a part of his one lung removed in his youth. Yeah. It says here the main threat facing Francis is sepsis, a serious infection of the blood that can occur as a complication of pneumonia. Yep. That is a very common cause of death. I don't believe that this stuff about him being at work, going back to work. I don't believe that. Red Snap anyway says, I've had that up. Will the next pope be black? I don't know. We'll go into that, won't we? We'll go into who exactly is going to precede him. Before we begin, let's go through the comments that were posted on my notice. So we have here, Observer says, is he the last pope? Yeah, we're going to go into that. Right. Macca the Gypsy. Sorry, yeah. Observer says you must remember and I said in reply to Observer. Observer's actually in the live chat right now. I've actually deleted the notice now, but I've preserved these comments for this live stream. He says, "Is he the last pope?" And I replied to Observer, "You must remember my video Conclave where I mentioned Saint Malachi." Right, life in prison, never parole songs. That's someone else. Ben, you have 11 acolytes. Only 200 people watch your videos after 3 years uploaded. The Pope is totally corrupt. All right. Well, we're going to go into the what was it? So that Mel Gibson's character Jerry Fletcher called the Vatican when he was talking to these two nuns in the back of his taxi. The festering sore, which is the Vatican. You said, "I'm sure you mean well, sisters, but you must realise that we must look at the festering sore that is the Vatican." Yeah, Michael the Gypsy, who is certainly the most amusing troll I've ever had. The only reason I don't ban him is because he's very entertaining. The Catholic Church. Oh my goodness me! Honestly, mate, if I was Stefan Molyneux, I'd be doing a 20-minute rant about your spelling and grammar. The Catholic Church, Catholic with a K at the end, as in Aleister Crowley's magic, takes in trillions a month and invests in armament companies that rain is spelled R-E-I-G-N, down bombs on women and children worldwide. It's a, with a grave accent, major scam and fraud. FM, all right. I'm not a fan of the Vatican or of the papacy, Macca the Gypsy. Right, so anyway, that's what we're going to do. Now, the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, met with him. We're going to be talking about that in a minute, but let's just have a look at the comments and see who has arrived. Jesuit, yeah. Now says Jesuit. Apparently, he's the first Jesuit Pope. Hello, David Splendid Isolation. Now, I don't believe he is. I think he's probably the first Jesuit Pope who actually is openly a member of the order. However, I'm sure there's been plenty of popes in the last 500 years who have been covert members of the Jesuit order. That's a big subject, but yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely. Sweeps, hello, Sweeps. Great being here with you all, but abandon hope, all ye who enter here. Things like that, lol. Yes. Oh, yes. We did an entire, Sweeps, we did an entire, watch party on the Inferno. This is like a Dan Brown novel inspired by the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. Yeah, and I enjoyed that actually. I'm going to come on to some articles. So someone's actually sent me. I mean, they can own up if they want. They're actually someone who's in the live chat now. I'm not going to name because this was a private correspondence. They can own up if they want. But someone has sent me some very interesting information here. An article. I'll just show you this. So I'm doing these things slightly out of order, but Associated Press confirms that papal renunciation is possible if the Pope becomes incapacitated. Right. This is what happens to the leadership of the Catholic Church when a Pope becomes incapacitated. Yeah. I'm not going to read all of this here, but it says it talks about. Here we go. That Pope Francis might be about to advocate that he will have to do that, as always. Yep. However, what the AP reporter doesn't say, because they have not the foggiest idea about it, is that a papal renunciation cannot be made in advance under a condition nor by a legal representative. Such a resignation will be invalid in canon law and jurisprudence, since it requires the presumption that a text written in advance, and the one referred to who was written in 2013, expresses the present will of a man who is the Pope. A thing cannot be verified if a Pope is in a coma, for example, and cannot communicate. This is why some people, they leave living wills, which would be like what to do if not what to do when someone dies, but what to do if someone becomes mentally insufficient and things like that. And it says here the Pope is receiving oxygen through nasal tubes. That's the nasal specs, as they're known, and has undergone examinations for blood tests. The results, right. However, the same Vatican press release did not say he got out of bed and ate breakfast, which means his doctors have confined him to bed. But he cannot possibly be doing this. This can't be true. There's rumours that he's even walking around. There's been news reports that he's walking around. He made a phone call, even though he's on 10 litres of oxygen a minute. I doubt if he's got the breath to speak. He made a phone call to this priest in Gaza. I find that very unlikely. Anyway, Green Tea, hello, how do you do? How do you do? Yeah. What have I missed? Well, the Pope's according to the news, he's getting better. But you see, the thing is, Green Tea, sometimes doctors say things like that. I remember when my mum was on her deathbed. When my mum was on her deathbed, I remember she was lying there and she was on oxygen too. So she was in a similar situation to the Pope. In fact, it's a very, very similar condition she had. She suffered from acute, very swift onset renal failure. So there was no time to set up a dialysis regime for her. her kidneys failed very, very suddenly. Now, that was all a part of this general problem she had with her health. But they took her into hospital, and when your kidneys fail that quickly, there's not a lot they can do for you. And she also developed edema on the lungs, which is like it's different from pneumonia in some ways that I'm not sure, but she developed a lung edema, and they put her on oxygen, and they said, "Oh, she's responding well." The doctor kept saying, "Oh, she's doing well." And the nurses kept saying, "Yes, she's doing very well. She's responding well to this oxygen," because they had her on a pulse oximeter checking her blood gas levels, and they were taking blood from her, giving them to the porters, who took them to the laboratory, things like that, and then suddenly they came in and said. They said to me, my dad, my brother, and I were there at a deathbed in John Radcliffe, accident emergency. They said to us, we're in a position now where we can intubate her and put her into intensive care, but if we do that, her chances of recovery are about 6 to 10%. And then they said, if she recovers, she'll probably suffer from serious brain damage. Alternatively, we can keep her comfortable now until she basically passes away here in this bed, which will take a couple of hours. That's what they said. After telling us, continuously reassuring us that she was doing well. As I've said many times, I didn't grieve for my mother. My mother hated me, and the feeling was kind of mutual, and so I didn't feel any grief. On the contrary, I felt a sense of relief when she died. But I still would not wish her to suffer, and I'm glad she didn't suffer. She didn't go. She literally, from when she sort of had her collapse to when she died was about 8 hours. So sounds like the Pope's in a similar situation to my mother. I'm not a doctor, but there you go. Oh, DJ, thank you. Yes, don't forget to like the stream if you do. David says, Protestants corrected most of the doctrinal problems with the Roman Church. Oh my goodness, David, going into the history of Christianity and its schisms is just so complicated. I know that the Anglican Church is actually very similar to the Roman Catholic Church. There are nonconformist Protestants, though, who there's a lot of them in Wales. Chapel people in Wales. Melons, yes. Georgia Maloney that's her nickname, and it's what her surname literally means in Italian. I don't think that she realizes in English that's a nickname for what Rick Mail used to call a wuzzle pair of jugs. DJ, I've been to Dante's house in Florence. Oh, cool! Because do you remember my Inferno watch party? I don't know if you've read the book or seen the movie. Yeah. Lance Cooper, the Pope did say he wanted the job for life for religious reasons. Oh, honestly, Lance, it's very rare. Papal abdications are actually very rare. Now, what that article refers to is the fact the Pope can appoint a kind of regent, and indeed there is going to be one appointed when he dies. The same happens when he dies. One of the cardinals will take over the role temporarily until the conclave, when a new Pope is chosen. And the same thing happens when he's ill. So he acts in the same way as the Vice President of the United States or any other kind of deputy or regent would do. DJ, the Pope is getting special drugs. Yeah, probably a bit of I don't think you can say it on YouTube, but it's a particular substance that can be found in blood, especially blood of young people. Hatchie, hello Hatchie. How do you do? I've watched the Godfather movies. Yeah, they're classic, aren't they? Yeah. Red Snapper. He's already dead, in my opinion. Same with Queen Lizzie. Well, he could be. I mean, if he wasn't, who would know? I mean, the only people seeing him are his doctors and the Prime Minister. DJ, I've read the Divine Comedy. I've read a version of it. It's actually, I've not read the original version. I've read like the modern translation. It's a very strange thing. Claire says, I've read all but the latter part of Dante's third part. Yeah, the version I read was illustrated, and it had a modern translation to it. Green Tea. Are there any conspiracy theories about how he got sick? And Claire says the recent movie, where was it? Is obviously a bit of advanced programming. Well, I can't help wondering, Claire. It does seem awfully coincidental, doesn't it? David says, "I'm sorry about your mum, Ben." Thanks, David, but I'm not. I'm not. Yeah, yeah. It's odd. I'm glad I went to see the conclave. I really am, because it has prepared me for this. And this, indeed, you can see behind me, my background is indeed Ralph Fiennes. There is Ralph Fiennes' character, whose name I can't remember from the film. At the Pope's deathbed, because it's a really film that's kind of pretty good. Although, as I said, it's kind of a bit of an unintentional comedy. Phuket, hello. Oh, still a Trump fanboy, Ben. Oh, we have our first backslapper. We have our first backslapper. I'm going to show you the photograph to prove that I'm also a backslapper. So before you call me a fanboy, I want you to pay attention to this, Phuket. Have a look. This proves that I'm a backslapper too. All right. Are you ready? Those of you who follow me on social media will have already seen this. There we go. Ben the backslapper says it's a nothing burger. I'll give you a moment to screenshot that, because there you are. You see, not only am I no longer a Trump fanboy, I know what is happening, man. I know, I can see it, man. I can see the truth, and all you people inferior to me, and you can't, man. You can't. Only backslappers know this, man, because we have statement analysis, man. Yeah, that's right. I'm now a backslapper. Yeah, everyone's a shill except me and Andrew Johnson, and everyone in the world is a shill, or they're duped by shills, except me and the backslappers, because we're so superior, man. Yeah, we're so superior. There you go. I am officially a backslapper. Claire, Dante was not a flirter. That's right. I mean, those days, it was actually not very. It was pretty. What's the word? Being a globe head, or a globalist, as they call us, was actually quite avant-garde. So it was almost like the whole world was like one of these flat Earth groups, where they just call you globe T words and things like that. Hmm. Oh, Clay, have you been to Florence too? Oh, I watched A Room with a View. Brunelleschi Dome is. Oh, yeah. Have you? I know DJ said he lived in Florence. Yeah, I mean the whole Inferno book is it's a bit of a tour. It's a bit of travel literature. I mean, it is this thriller. It's a typical Dan Brown fast-paced speed thriller. But I mean, it's also a piece of travel literature. Observer. Oh, we've already done. Yes. It's interesting the planetary alignment has happened. Did you see my video on the planetary alignment? Because I wonder what the astrologers are making of it. You don't get off that lightly, Ben. Copper chisel and pounding stones, Ben. That's right, guys. We go back to the Stone Age. Oh, Claire says I went to Rome as a 3-year-old child. All right, I've never been to Italy and anywhere in Italy before. And Hatchie says, I expect the aliens are under the Vatican as well as the White House. Yeah. Well, according to Monsignor Corrado Balducci, who was actually the official Vatican astronomer, they do know about aliens. Yeah, they have their own alien secrets, the Vatican. Indeed, they collaborated with the Mussolini regime in 1931, or it was 1931 or 33, to arrange for the transport of a crashed UFO from the Magenta region to the United States at the end of World War II. Or sorry, just before the end of World War II, and then that was actually intercepted by. It was taken to the Vatican, and then after the fall of the fascist Italy, that's when the US took it. They apparently took it. The Vatican then, if I remember rightly, the Vatican then took this craft to. They took it to the United States. Now, I know that the skeptics and backslappers think about this. They say it's a nothing burger, just like in the meme I just showed you. It's all fake, man. It's UFO wackadoos, and etc., etc. But if you read Roberto Pinotti's fascist UFO files, which is that's not as dramatic as the title suggests. I think it's actually much more. I think it's actually there's a lot of evidence for it. Hachi. They gave it to the Germans, Ben. Yes, absolutely. I forgot to read my Michael Shrimpton. Yes, I should have done. Red Snapper says, "Do you know what Reichskonkordat was? Reichskonkordat." I don't know. It sounds like something Michael Shrimpton would say if he dropped a heavy weight on his foot. And yes, DJ Il Duce was into the UFO stuff. Believe it or not, Mussolini he started the first government UFO investigation service, investigation department. Actually, he founded it when I think in the late 1920s when he first took power. All right, just to get back to the notes. So there you are. This is what happened. The Pope probably the I forgot what they call him. That one of the cardinals will. I forgot what they call the cardinal. Cardinal Regent. What's it called? A cardinal for the. Oh, okay. I'll just put you. I'll tell you what. Let's ask Grok, shall I? If in doubt, ask Grok. The wisdom Grok was very useful to me the other day, actually, because Grok helped me find that film. Right. Who runs the Vatican when the Pope is ill or dies? Okay, let's just capitalize that just in case I confuse poor Grocky. All right. Here we go then. Because this is actually, when the Pope is ill or dies, the Vatican has a well-established system to ensure continuity of governments. If the Pope is temporarily incapacitated due to illness, the day-to-day operations of the Vatican are managed by senior officials, particularly the Secretary of State, who acts as the Pope's chief aide and oversees the Roman Curia, the administrative apparatus of the Holy See. The Curia continues its work under the leadership of respective heads like cardinals and bishops in charge of various departments, ensuring the Church's functions carry on. If the Pope dies or resigns, as happened with Benedict XVI, the situation shifts to what's called sede vacante, Latin for a seat being vacant. During this period, the Camerlengo of the Holy Roman Church, Camerlengo, takes charge of temporary affairs. The Camerlengo is the cardinal appointed to this role, handles administration and financial matters, and secures the Pope's private quarters and oversees preparations for the papal conclave. Right, that's finds his character in the film, I think. Currently, as of February 2025 of this year, the Camerlengo is Cardinal Kevin Farrell, appointed by Pope Francis in 2019. Right, this is the guy basically who's running it, Cardinal Kevin Farrell. And there you go. That's kind of it goes on a little bit more. Once the Pope dies, the process moves quickly to electing a successor. And it just talks about the conclave here, which I've talked about before. All right, so that's Grok for you. Good old Grok. So that's basically what's happening right now. It's funny, my viewing figures have stayed static on 27 views for the last 10 minutes. I think YouTube are messing with my stats. I bet I've got more viewers than that. I bet I've got a lot more viewers than that. I don't believe that I've just got 27 views. Okay, what's next? Yeah, now according to my contact, my correspondent, who can own up if they want to be, this was the discussion that was actually between Prime Minister Meloni and the Pope. There's actually a photograph of Meloni meeting the Pope, but it's clear it is from an earlier event because the Pope is sitting up and he's healthy. He's not in hospital. He's in the Vatican and he's just sitting there in the Vatican. Again, if he's got double pneumonia, he's not walking around and making phone calls and things like that. He's not in conference with priests in Gaza or anything like that. All right, so next, Kevin from West Bromwich. Yeah, Kevin doesn't really sound like a very oh, DJ, this was covered in a Dan Brown novel. I haven't read all the Dan Browns. I've read 3 of them. Okay, so let's have a look. Kevin Farrell. Actor. Oh, it's an actor called Kevin Farrell. But oh yeah, Kevin Farrell. There's a priest here. This is the guy. This is the guy running the show right now. Kevin Farrell, and he's Irish, an Irish-born senior ranking prelate of the Catholic Church. There we go. It's this chap here. Right, this is the guy running the show right now. It's the Pope's. He may end up being the next Pope. We don't know. That's just the question. Because if you remember in the film Conclave, if you've seen it, the whole thing is like the whole. It's a really interesting film because it just consists of people shuffling around, talking in dark corners and rooms and things like that. So it's incredible how the filmmakers have created this atmosphere of excitement. It's quite well done. It's quite well done. So I did enjoy that film, I must say. Claire says, Angels and Demons is the best, but after that they get a bit repetitive. Origin was an awful transhumanist AI crap. Right, funny enough, I didn't like Angels and Demons, and the film was even worse. I didn't enjoy Angels and Demons at all. I thought it was a bit silly. Again, it's focused on the Vatican. Oh, Observer thinks that Farrell looks like me. He does a bit, I suppose. He's a bit older. But there you go. 69 Phuket. Is the weed tin guy around? I need a spliff. Yeah, Hugo, where art thou, Hugo? I've got to visit Hugo, actually. I'm trying to make arrangements to visit Hugo. Actually, he does wear a baseball cap like Ben's. Oh, does he? Oh, right. Well, he's got like a skull cap, a bit like the Jewish yarmulke, but it's a similar thing. Yeah, someone's making comments about saying my hat is smelly. I don't know how the hell they would know that because you can't smell it through the screen. But I do wash this regularly, believe it or not. It's actually a hat. It says Australia on it. It's the Australian flag, which I got long ago, long before I actually went to Australia. I did go to Australia once. All right, yes, Claire says, you've already been likened to Sir Winnie as Spencer Churchill. Yes, I have indeed, and others such as Al Murray, the pub landlord, which is kind of cool. He's ruggedly handsome, I suppose. Anyway, guys, I need to take a little break. What I'll do is I'm not going to leave you in the lurch. I'll play. Oh, let's have a look here. Pope update. Pope Francis' latest news. I'll play you a suitably long news clip of the Pope from as close as possible. All right, we got a live one here, so I'm going to play some live news. I'm going to play GB News live while I nip off to the little boys' room, and I'll be back shortly. Where is it? Here we go. I'm sorry, that doesn't seem to be very interesting. It's just a picture. This is the Vatican City at night. Basically, that's all you're seeing. So, oh dear. All right, well, there you go. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it wasn't very interesting, was it? Sweeps said, "Oh, Heidi. Hello, Heidi. Oh, Heidi, how you doing, TTFN? Nice to see you too, sweetie. Heidi's my old friend who goes to UFO conferences, yeah. Oh, now says, smell-o-vision is how this person knows my hat smells. It doesn't smell anyway. It's just someone posted elsewhere. Heidi says, here's my prediction. Diddy and Epstein file. I think you mean Epstein, not Einstein. Diddy and Epstein files about to drop. Oh, look over here. The poopy is croaked. Oh, I see. So, right, Heidi. So you're basically saying this is a distraction from, possibly. I mean, would they sacrifice the pontiff? Would they sacrifice the pontiff for that? Yeah, they probably would, actually. So let's carry on here. Hello, Claire. Claire says here, I saw an animated reconstruction of Rome in the 1st century on Facebook. Yeah, it's pretty good. You could tell where the Vatican was. Looks like some stone walls are pretty much the same as they were 2,000 years ago. Yeah, I mean, it's so much. There is so much. What's the word? There is so much history there, isn't there, Claire? Sweep says this Pope in Argentina is wanted for hiding PDF files. He also procured XSS missiles from France to use against Britain for use against Britain in the Falklands War. Sweeps, this is. I wasn't aware that he had any connection with that, with the defence. I mean, I know that, of course, Argentina did acquire these French missiles. According to Francois Mitterrand's, that's the president of France at the time, according to his psychiatrist, Mitterrand was in a state because Thatcher, in 1982, Margaret Thatcher phoned him up and said, you need to give me some intelligence on these weapons. If you don't, I'll use tactical nukes against the Argentine mainland. And he complied. I don't know if that's true or whether Thatcher was serious. No, she probably was. But yeah, you put the Falklands War in quotes, and I'm glad you did, because Sweeps, if you go to, you'll see that I did a special video all about the Falklands War, and I have a Panama radio show too, all about it, because there's so much more about what happened there, definitely. An observer mentions something interesting. Pope John Paul I died 33 days after becoming Pope in 1978. Yes, his death was unexpected and made his papacy the shortest in modern history. That's right, and he was replaced by John Paul II, who was one of the longest. 33. See, we're getting into the Masonic stuff now, aren't we? So I've still got 27 views. Can you believe it? Honestly, Google, you're not fooling me, you know. Do you think I'm just going to give up? Do you think, oddly enough, this 33 minutes into the live stream as well when that brought up? DJs, I've read a few Robert Temple books. Yeah, Tina Silver, she read that. What's her? She's read that. My friend Tina, she's read that too. She's mentioned that a few times as well. Hatchie says, is the mitre fishtail something to do with the Dogon? The fish-eyed Pope. Yeah, the fish-hatted Pope. Anyway, guys, what's next in the notes? Yeah. Let's have a look at his bio. I'm just going to read from good old Picawedia. It just said his Pope Francis' real name is Jorge Mario Bergoglio. Jorge Mario Bergoglio. Italian. He's Argentina, Italian roots, like many Argentines. He has Italian roots, and he's the first pope from the Jesuits, apparently, first from the Americas, and first from the Southern Hemisphere, and the first born and raised outside Europe since the 8th century Syrian Pope Gregory III. Born in Buenos Aires on 17th of December 1936, ordained in 1969. Jesuit principal supervisor in Argentina, Archbishop of Buenos Aires in 1998, Cardinal in 2001. Sounds like he's a rising star. All right. He led the Argentine church during the December 2001 riots in Argentina. And the administrations of Nestor Kirchner and Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner, and considered him to be a political rival. All right. Funnily enough, he would have been a priest during the Galtieri regime. That is the military junta, which basically created the whole Falklands obsession. You know, the whole the whole thing about the Falkland Islands. They call it. I mean, they have a kind of self-deprecating joke in Argentina. They call it Malvinitis from Islas Malvinas, which is their name for the islands. And they sort of they know it's some kind of weird obsession. And they realize it's an obsession, but it's an obsession. It's got nothing to do with sovereignty. It's a myth created by the Galtieri regime. That is the military junta in the 70s. There is no legitimate sovereignty claim by Argentina on those islands because they were settled by Britain. What happened was the Spanish had control of them for a number of years, but this was before the modern state of Argentina was created. I cover all this in my Falklands video, so we're going off on a tangent here. But basically, the whole obsession with the Falkland Islands in Argentina stems from that period, a very recent period, just 40 years ago, or just over 40 to 50 years ago. And it seems like the spell has been broken by Javier Milei. He seems to have seen through it, and honestly, Argentina's much better off just forgetting it, just dropping it and forgetting about this idiocy. And it looks like they, under Milei, they are for the first time ever. Oh, we've got Sasquatch's best mate. Where is it? Here we go. Sasquatch says here, hello, Sasquatch's best mate. Hey up, hope you're well. I'm not bad, thanks, mate. I'm not bad. Claire says, I read The Sirius Mystery. Yeah, that was quite something, wasn't it? That was about the African tribe the Dogons. Yeah. Red Snapper. Was the Falklands War really fought over black goo? Right. The answer is yes, Red Snapper. But I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent for that. It's Junta Ben. Right, sorry, Claire. I'm not very good with Spanish. I can't speak it, in other words. All right, he's very much a liberal reformer. He says they should be sympathetic to the LGBT whatever community. He blesses same-sex unions. So it sounds like he's one of these sort of like reformers, these liberal reformers, like the character in the Conclave. It talks about his. Let's just have a look here. This is him when he was young. There's a picture of him when he was young. Here we go. As a young seminarian in Villa Devoto, when he was trained, that was when he was training to be a priest. Right, here we go. Bergoglio was the subject of allegations regarding the Argentine Navy of kidnapping 2 Jesuit priests, Orlando Uriho and Franz Jalix, in 1976 during Argentina's Dirty War. This is interesting because this refers to the people who were disappeared under the junta. Because there was horrible scandals of people who had disappeared. The whole way that disappear has turned into a verb stems from these South American juntas, these military dictatorships. So he's feared for the priest's safety and had to try to change their work prior to the arrest. This is a name given to the military junta or civic military dictatorship of Argentina, a period of state terrorism. Yep, that's right. This is where the whole Falklands myth comes from, as I explained. It all dates back to them, to there. So that sounds to me like he was actually was he concerned for their welfare? His complaint was dismissed. The priests were tortured but not killed. They were actually released 5 months later alive. Right. They were lucky then because most people did disappear. The bodies. What happened was they got rid of the bodies by putting them on a plane, and then they fly the plane over the sea. And when they were far enough out to sea to be sure that the bodies would not wash up ashore, they just threw them. They just threw the people out. Some of them were still alive, and they just threw them. They threw them out of the plane from a high altitude. Some of the people were still alive, and just threw them in the sea. They were monsters, absolute monsters. But of course, it was all sponsored. It wouldn't have happened if it didn't have international support, as is always the case. Thanks for all your comments, everyone. I can't actually answer every single comment that people are making here. But I'll say hello to new people like Vil K. Hi, Ben. Greetings from Finland. I just tuned in. I wanted to thank you for reporting about Richard D. Hall's situation. Is there any news about how Richard D. Hall is doing? Hey, Vil, thanks for joining us. You're very welcome. Last thing I heard, Richard did have a court hearing last week, which was online. Apparently, even though there's no reason why, they only allowed 12 people into the stream. There's been no news. I know that Richard has removed some of the things from his website. I know this is about basically his bankruptcy and seizure of his property. It's disgusting what they're doing to him. It really is. It makes me furious that they're doing this to him just for expressing an opinion, basically. Richard has not backed down. He's not taking the knee like Alex Jones did. He is standing strong. Good for him. High sweeps. The Numos, yeah, they were right. Yes, Sweeps used to go to the Probe conference. Yeah, he did. Now then, we need to get on. We need to press on. Saint Malachi. Now, this is very interesting. Saint Malachi, which of course we were inevitably going to bring up. I mentioned this in the Conclave film. He was a 12th century Irish clergyman. He was Archbishop of Armagh. And he has been attributed. He's been attributed to the prophecy of the popes, although this is not by no means certain. And what happened was, St. Malachi allegedly, what happened was, allegedly came up with this prophecy before his death in 1148. After he went on a pilgrimage to Rome. He actually went to visit Pope Innocent II in 1139 to receive 2 wool palliums, which are like these collar things that priests wear. It's like around their shoulders. He had to receive 2 of them for the metropolitan sees of Armagh and Cashel. This is in Northern Ireland, in the sort of Northern Ireland area. And now, while in Rome, Malachi purportedly experienced a vision of future popes, which he recorded as a sequence of cryptic phrases. This manuscript was then allegedly deposited in the Vatican secret archives and then rediscovered in 1590, exactly the time when there was a papal conclave occurring. Yeah. Several historians have concluded that it is a late 16th century forgery. Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, a contemporary biographer of Malachi, makes no mention of this prophecy. The Spanish monk Benito Romero de Montenegro, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. He says that there's a high level of accuracy up to the verse's date when they were published, but high levels in accuracy afterwards. This is what he's writing. He was writing in 1787, so this is after. So he could compare what happened before the original publication in 1590 and after 1590. He found out there was a lot of accuracy before 1590, not a lot afterwards, indicating that the story had been concocted not in 1139, but in 1590, several centuries later. Yeah, so that's very interesting. One theory to explain the creation was put forward by the French priest Lawrence Morelli. It was spread by supporters of Cardinal Girolamo Simoncelli in his support for his bid to become Pope in the 1590 conclave to replace Urban VII. Right, that's interesting. So it was just created for political reasons. This is what people claim about Atlantis. They say Atlantis was simply a political satire created by Plato for the purposes of the manipulation of contemporary Athenian politics. Now, I don't believe that, but this is how it's been interpreted. Now, what I think we'll do, because I'm reading from old Wikipedia again. That's what I'm doing. But there's the lists of popes are very interesting because there's 112 of these popes. And the first is the current one at the time of the time of Malachi when he was in Rome. This is Celestine II, reigned 1143-44, and he's listed as from a castle on the the name in the odd name, the name, because each of these popes has a kind of weird name. This is why they're cryptic. And according to this, it's called Ex Castro Tiberis. Now, Tiberis, that means from a castle on the river Tiber. And it'd be very easy for Malachi or someone to fake this, because indeed Celestine was born in Città di Castello on the banks of the river Tiber. Then we come on to it goes on to different popes. Now, what this column is very interesting. I'll just show it you briefly. I don't have to keep it open, but I'll show it you briefly so you can go and have a look at it. Here we go. This column, this is the cryptic name. This is the cryptic name that the author, whoever the author is of the prophecy, gives them. This is its translation. This is his Latin, the cryptic Latin name here. Okay, this is the cryptic Latin name. This is its meaning. And here is like some explanation notes on this column here. That is the explanation provided by this author Weon, or whoever the author is. So that's just explaining what I'm reading now. I'm not going to read every single one of these, but it goes through like 112 future popes, and in this column, in the third column along, I should point out, is the real popes. There's also a column with the real popes who roughly correspond to the prophecy, although it's not exact. It's not exact. And some of them have weird names, like the 11th pope is called Sus in Cribo. Now that means pig in a sieve, which is weird. Day scholar Exiet, which means he will come from a school. I'm just looking through and it goes through. I'll just stop on certain. There's one called Jerusalem of Champagne. That sounds fun. Sounds like the name of some posh wine bar. Dragon pressed down, Draco Deprelius, Snaky Man, Concionator Gallus, which means French preacher. They got some weird names, and I'll come when we get forward to like the 20th century. I will start looking at these in more detail. From the mountains of Pamecius, Cold Abbot, Frigidus Abbas. All right. Nuus de Urigini 40, which means new man from the strong virgin. That sounds like the second coming of Jesus. De Inferno Pregnati, which means from a pregnant hell. That's a very odd name for a pope. He did say that some of these popes were like anti-popes as well. I think, anyway. De Capra and Albergo. That means from a nanny goat and an inn. That's blimey, what their names they give them. This is all in the prophecy. Now, of course, they do not actually correspond with the real popes, which we know now in the 21st century, looking back, meant. So but I'm just reading some of these because some of these are very interesting. And here we have, so up until 1590, they're very accurate. And then after 1590, it starts to get a little bit dodgy. It starts to get a bit weird. So up until 1590, there is some correlation between, for example, you see in the footnotes here that they explain why this person might have been given this name in the prophecy, because there is some correspondence to the real person. After that, it starts to get very speculative, indicating that this was actually created in 1590. Now, again, we'll go forward into that, but I still want to cover this because it is relevant to the present day. All right. So now we are coming forward to the 20th century. In the footnotes, they now get supporters of the prophecy and now proponents of the prophecy, and now starting to become more vague when they're trying to link the meaning to various people. So, for example, Pope Leo XIII, who was Pope from 1878 to 1903. Light in the sky is the name. Lumen in Cielo is the name given in the prophecy. And it says here, proponents of the prophecies have attempted to link this motto to Leo XIII by interpreting it as a reference to the star on his arms. O'Brien notes that this coincidence would be much more remarkable had the prophecies referred to Cetus, as they did when describing the same device on the pre-publication Pope Innocent VII's arms. Yeah. Then we have Burning Fire, Pius X, 1903 to 14th. Proponents of the prophecies have attempted to link this motto to Pius X by interpreting it as a reference to his zeal. Again, this is kind of like a bit. This could mean anything, really. I mean, you could take anything. You could like say, well, there's in my name there's a B. My name starts with the letter B. Therefore, if someone predicted that the buzzing insect, the bumblebee or the honeybee, was kind of like going to be some kind of weird person in the future, you could say, well, Ben's got a B in the first of his name, and it must refer to the insect, the bee. Therefore, the prophecy is correct. But of course, anyone could make something up like that. Could make something like that. Here we go. So the 104th Pope is called Religio Depopulata, religion destroyed. This is Benedict. Some people say, well, that means Benedict XIV, because Benedict the 20. Yeah, Benedict. I think that's 14th, isn't it? Yeah. Proponents of this prophecy have attempted to link this motto to Benedict XIV by interpreting it as a reference to the Great War and Russian Revolution, because the destruction of religion has been a theme of both those things, both people losing their faith in God because of the war, and the Bolsheviks' attempt to disestablishment the church in Russia. Yeah. And of course, we have Pius XI, Fides Interpida, intrepid faith. Proponents attempt to link this motto to Pius XI by interpreting it as a reference to his faith in action during the pontificate. He condemned Nazism and communism. He was 1922 to 39, so he saw the rise of Hitler, and he also saw the rise of the Soviet Union. Pope 106, Pastor Angelicus, angelic shepherd. And people say, well, he must mean Pius XII. That's not the Pope from 1939 to 58. Proponents attempt to link this motto by interpreting it as a reference to his role during the H word. In other words, rescuing the Jewish people from the H word. You can't say it on YouTube. Then we come to Pope John the 13th, 1958 to 63. Pastor et Nauta, that means shepherd and sailor. Proponents of the prophecies attempted to link the sailor portion of the motto to John the 13th's by interpreting it as a reference to his title, Patriarch of Venice, which happens to be a coastal city. You see, if you want something to be true, and you can link almost anything to anything. Right, the 108th Pope is called Flower of Flowers, Flos Florum, Flower of Flowers. Now, people say this must mean Pope Paul VI, 1963 to 78. Proponents attempt to link this motto by interpreting it as a reference to the fleur-de-lis on his arms, on his coat of arms. And there's a picture of the coat of arms of the various popes here. Their crest contains symbolism, as all coats of arms do. And they say, well, it must mean this, but again, it's pretty vague. Right, the 109th Pope is called De Mediatate Lunae, which means of the half moon. And people say this must mean John Paul I, who was Pope, as we previously discussed, for 33 days in 1978. Just a very, very short, just over a month. I mean, he's the Liz Truss of the papacy, isn't he? Just a really, really short time in office. Yeah. John Paul I. Proponents attempt to link this motto by referring to the light of the moon, by interpreting his birth name as meaning from the white light. See, which is Albino Luciana, which is that's his actual name, Albino Luciani, from the white light. But again, that could. I know I'm not a skeptic, but that's just what I think. And now we're coming on to the 110th Pope. We're getting near the end, guys. De labore solis, from the labor of the sun, or of the eclipse of the sun. That's what it means. And people say, well, this means John Paul II. This guy, John Paul II, birth name Karol Wojtyła, he's a Polish guy. He was Pope from 1978 to 2005. That's that's a long time for a Pope, because popes don't actually usually become Pope until they're already quite old. So popes generally are not on the throne very long. They just usually have a few years and they pop off. They go and meet their boss. But the proponents find significance of the occurrence of solar eclipses on the date of John Paul's birth, which is the 18th of May 1920, and his funeral, the 8th of April 2005. Well, total eclipses of the sun are actually not rare. They occur at least every 1.5 years, usually on average. They're rare in a particular place, as I said when I discussed this on Third Rail Radio. If you stay in the same place on a single spot on the Earth's surface, you're going to get an eclipse probably once every 400 years. But for the entire Earth gets one at least every year and a half, I think. Other attempts link the Pope to the motto that have been more forced, including drawing a connection to Copernicus, as both were Polish and both lived in Krakow for parts of their lives. Well, I must be the reincarnation of C.S. Lewis then, or J.R. Tolkien, because they lived in Oxford and I live in Oxford. So there you go. And now we come on to the end times, guys. The second last Pope, Gloria Oliui, glory to the olive. And this is Benedict XVI, Joseph Ratzinger. God in Himmel! Yes, indeed. I'm sure Michael Shrimpton has a lot to do. And this is the second last Pope. Proponents of the prophecies generally try and draw a connection between Benedict and the Olivetan order to explain this motto. Benedict's choice of papal name is after Saint Benedict of Nursia, founder of the Benedictine order, of which the Olivetans are one branch. Other explanations make a reference to him as being a pope dedicated to peace and reconciliation, of which the olive branch is the symbol. Oh yeah, this is like the people who believe in Nostradamus. I'm afraid all these connections to the names predicted when in the 1590 version of the prophecies. I like the people who say, well, Nostradamus said this, so it must mean that. So because he said this, it obviously means the French Revolution, because he referred to the separation of head and body from the great people and things like that. And he says, well, and all these other things that he says. People say, well, this is what basically what Nostradamus was saying. When you look at Nostradamus's actual work, you'll see he wrote these quatrains, which are incredibly abstract poems, 4-line poems, which are very, very abstract indeed. And he was off his head on drugs when he wrote them. And finally, we come on to the last Pope of all. The last Pope of all. The last Pope is called Peter the Roman, Petrus Romanus. And he's got a very long title, actually. I'm not going to read all this out in Latin, but it says, Peter the Roman, who will pasture his sheep in many tribulations, and when these things are finished, the city of 7 hills, that is Rome, will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people. The end times, right. Now, of course, the 112th Pope the 112th Pope, according to the dating of the prophecy, does refer to the current Pope, who is Pope Francis. And it just says here, many analyses of the prophecies note that it is open to interpretation that additional popes would come between the glory of the olive, that is Peter the Roman. Popular speculation by proponents of the prophecy attach this prediction to Benedict XVI's successor. Since Pope Francis's election of Pope, proponents on internet forums have been striving to link him to the prophecies. Theories include a vague connection with Francis of Assisi, whose father was named Pietro, which means Peter, which is not exactly a rare name, is it? So that is basically the prophecy of the Pope. That's how it works. Right. As Claire says here, Nostradamus very hit and miss. Yeah, so are these. Now, I'm not a skeptic, but I am dubious about these connections they make, these very connections. I'm just going to go through your comments and welcome new viewers. Christy, hello. Christy White Widow Winter, how do you do? Quatrains are brilliant as long as your intent is groovy. Yeah, you can't complain about grooviness, can you? Hello, Tolkien Study. There's a painting of Ratzinger in a German symbol sweater. All right, thank you for not being more explicit on YouTube. Now says the reincarnation of C.S. Lewis sounds like a half man, half biscuit song. Claire says, could be obscure hidden meaning connections. Well, you can't rule it out, as Nick Pope would say. But then you see, this comes on to the idea of coincidence theory, which the skeptics always get wrong, and I always pull them up on it. Where is the statistical ceiling above which you will call something as not significant? Now, I do believe, you see, the actual point is never described. There's no cutoff point, according to the skeptics. So you can use coincidence theory to dismiss anything. That being said, however, once you get to a significant level above that ceiling, wherever it might be, in terms of like simply common sense, you can call something out as bullshit. And I do, unfortunately, with Nostradamus and with this particular thing. As I said, I have to keep stressing, I'm not a skeptic. Anyone else new has arrived, welcome. I'm sorry I can't address every single question or every single comment you post here. Hello, Celtic cousin. Hello. Interesting and informative as always. Thanks, Celtic. Much appreciated. Can I call you KK for short? KK, yeah. I'm glad your middle name is not Catherine or Karen, because then I couldn't call you that, could I? So thanks. I think that's all the comments. So, and welcome everyone. So welcome everyone. 33 watchers. We got 33 again. It's gone back to 33. Observer says the Pope's death will be announced on Friday. Right. That is Observer's prediction. Right. Well, when it comes to predictions, you see, as with Celtic cousin. Oh, thanks, Celtic. Oh, even though I've just noticed that your surname is actually not K, it's C. So KC, I'll call you. I'm glad your middle name is not, Frida or something, because then you'd be KFC, and I'd have to say, could I have some fries with that? So anyway, that's enough of the stupid jokes. All right, Celtic. I'll call you Celtic, all right? Because cake, I call you KK. So yeah, where was I? Yeah. Back to the prophecy, because the prophecy of the popes is referred to in several works of fiction, including several works of apocalyptic fiction. I've got to trip over my words. I noticed I was doing this actually in my last video, which was the introduction to the Jones Plantation. I tend to babble a bit. I speak too quickly, and I trip over my words because my mind is churning along at really breakneck speed, and my voice and my mouth can't keep up. It's all part of my kind of like weirdness, I think. So this is The Third Secret by Steve Berry. Now, Steve Berry is this guy. I've been looking this up because I love this. I love these kinds of fiction, and I'm going to add these to my apocalypse talk, because you remember my apocalypse talk. The next time I do that talk, I'm going to add this to it. This is the guy, Steve Berry, an American author and former attorney currently living in St. Augustine, Florida. Berry first appeared in print in historical figures, The Amber Room and the Romanov Prophecy. Oh, right. Right, this sounds interesting. This sounds great. It does sound interesting. The Third Secret. Now, the Third Secret might refer to the secrets of Fatima, but it involves. It actually does involve this. It apparently involves the prophecy of the popes. Let me just look this up. Let me just have a look, Steve, because there's no Wikipedia page for this particular novel. Steve Berry, not the right. The third secret. Here we go. This looks interesting, doesn't it? Right. This cover art looks very Dan Brown, actually. It looks very, very Dan Brown. So it looks like he's got this. To me, I think it looks like he has the same artist. The same artist does this as Dan Brown, the same cover designer, the same graphic designer. Read a sample. All right. I'll have to. It takes a while to load. So yeah, that's. I might read that. I mean, I think I've got so many things. I've got so many books I haven't read yet and need to read. It's good. I don't think I will never read all these books. I just don't have. I won't live that long to read to read all these books. Oh, he's written a book called The Omega Factor. Now that was a really good TV series from the 70s, and it's on YouTube if you want to watch it. It's really good. The Omega Factor. It's like the X-Files. It's sort of very similar to the X-Files. Okay. Yeah, Claire noticed the Fatima thing. So this book is obviously about that prophecy from Fatima, but also it ties in the prophecy of the popes as well. From what we've, Tolkien knows him. Do you know this guy? You've Amherst College is all right. Who was saying they'd gone to school with him? Someone was saying they've been to school with Steve Berry. Who was that? I can't see the comment now. Sorry, guys. Oh, the Omega Factor. Yeah, brilliant series, man. Good. And is it still on YouTube? Let's have a look because it's really good. It's the Omega Factor. So it's the title of that book, but it's also much older. Here we go. The Omega Factor. Oh yeah, it's still there. Good, good. It's really, really cool. It's way better than most of the TV series today. And it's 1979 BBC TV series. 65 videos on this. Bloody good that is. All right, Jam Noise 72 has reviewed it as well. So good for her. I'm pleased, even though we're not on speaking terms anymore. I still wish her all the best. I told maybe okay. Oh, Dan Brown. Oh, you know you went to school with Dan Brown. Oh, right. Oh, not you. All right. Somebody went to school with somebody. Tolkien says, I met Michael Crichton, who did Westworld in Jurassic Park. Went to med school here. Nice guy. All right, yeah. Yes, well remembered now, as Gareth actually told me about it. He told me about it first, and then Jam Noise mentioned it. I think I watched her video about it, and she actually contacted me and told me I should watch it. Yeah, definitely. Look, and it's bloody good. But anyway, that's the prophecy of the popes done. I'm going through my notes. And I should point out, as on a personal note, I actually, it looks like, in my view, that the prophecy of the popes probably was created in 1590 for the purposes just maybe for fun, maybe as a troll, as we'd say nowadays, or maybe just it was used to try and promote this papal candidate at the conclave. The fact that the prophecy is very accurate for all popes in the past, from 1139 onwards to 1590, but then when they go into the future, from 1590 to the early 21st century, he starts to get very fictional and very weird, and the people. So obviously, it's very easy to attribute the connections to the popes beforehand, because the person writing it was writing a piece of basically cryptic fiction and said, well, this pope was like 10 years ago. What would they call him? What would it be like? And then you sort of like go forward, and it's like, well, they're speculating more, and they're essentially writing fiction. It does look like that, so I don't take this prophecy seriously. If I'm wrong, we're going to find out pretty soon, because even if he recovers from this illness, Pope Francis is 88 years old. He's not going to be around for a while, and of course, it's easy to predict that he's going to die soon. Now, who was it who said that he's going to die on Friday? They're going to announce his death on Friday, because I'd be curious to know how you know that. Someone said the Pope's death is going to be announced on Friday. Now, I can't see it now. Oh, David. Hello, David. How are you, David? How's your doings? My doings are all right, actually. My doings are perfectly well, I'm glad to say. Oh, Claire went to Rosslyn Chapel. I'd like to do that. David actually, sorry, I'm just going back. Lorenzo Sinclair. Hello, Lorenzo. You should be chosen as the next Pope. We'll see David Icke get the OBE before I become Pope. David, are you attending any UFO paranormal conferences in the up-and-coming months? If so, where are you going on, pal? All right, David. David, are you David Griffin? I am speaking, actually, next week? The week after next, at the Birmingham UFO group. That's the 6th of March. There's loads coming up, actually. I'm going to the Weird Weekend North, which is the beginning of April, I believe. Yeah. The skeptics will love that. Conference, April Fool's Day, paranormal conference. And there's a couple more. I'm going to Contact in the Desert, which is at the end of May. And then there's rumours of a Lapis conference coming up in the autumn. And there's a couple more. I don't have the details here, right? Oh, I'm speaking at an event in Swindon in July. So I'm really getting about. It's going to be expensive to get back to Contact, but I had such a good time there last year. I've got the video if you want to see it. Ben in the Desert. I loved it so much. It was a place I was made for it. I was made to be at that place. I really was. Oh, no, you're not David Griffin. All right, David, no worries. David Griffin is a bit of a recluse anyway. I don't often see him. But welcome. But I'm going to be at several events, yeah. Now, as far as Pope Francis, I mean, the guy who somebody predicted that he would die his death would be announced on Friday. That might well happen. But that's I'd love to know how this person knows that, because if you're just guessing, then it's quite a safe guess. It's like, I mean, I joked I think I'd made a joke in January of 2022. I said, "Oh, I predict that within 3 years the Queen will die." Right now, does that mean I'm psychic? Because of course she did, didn't she? She died just a few months later, and I think it was September, wasn't it? She died of that year. Now, that's not really. You can't prove you're psychic or clairvoyant, or you can't prove that with a prediction like that, because if you say someone's going to die within 3 years and they're an old lady like the Queen, who's an old lady, she was an old lady, and she was not very old lady actually, and she was not in the best of health. You got probably an 80% chance of being right. Observer says 7 planets were alive on Friday, February the 28th. This event is known as an alignment. The planets actually lined up, but we can't see them all at once. That's right. Well, we can see all the major planets are visible. Do you want to see the video I made about this? I made a video about this, mate. If you've not seen it, please do. It is called, here we go. It's called Planetary Alignment. I couldn't think of a more original title. There you go. I did it on 4th of February. Please do watch that. You are ancient Egyptian, Ben says now. Oh, you've seen the picture of old Caper, haven't you? Yes. Caper, yes. This has become a bit of a legend, actually. When I saw this, several people have actually made me aware of this over the years. Someone said, Ben, what's this? And they showed me this image here. And it is weird, isn't it? It's uncanny. This is a picture of a guy called Caper. He's described as an army priest scribe of the old kingdom of Egypt. So this is sort of around in the Pyramid Age, about 25th century BC. And it's an amazing work of art. It's made from sandalwood. It's 2/3 life size, and unlike most Egyptian art, it's actually very naturalistic. Look, these eyes have been made with bits of metal and crystals and things like that. But it's weird, isn't it? It's uncanny. Look at him. He does look slightly less like me from the side. His forehead recedes a bit more than mine does. So if you look at him from the side, he looks a bit less like me. But that's just uncanny. That's like looking in the mirror. It's weird. That's a very, very strange experience looking at that. Observer, what would Malachi describe you as? Carrier of the sick, because I was a hospital porter. Yeah. Tolkien says that is me. Well, it's people said, well, maybe you're a relativist. I mean, the thing is, after 4,500 years, think how many generations have gone since then. So, assuming he and his succeeding descendants had like 2 kids each, probably there's millions of people around the world descended from Caper. Yeah. And the idea that his features would somehow be transmitted genetically over that number of generations, now it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. But it's interesting that you get these like connections. People, like I was joking earlier, Claire was saying I resemble Winston Churchill, on Al Murray, the pub landlord. Sweep says, "Yo, Ben, you don't have to be psychic, but just being a mentalist can give you some accurate predictions." Right. Reincarnation, maybe, yeah, maybe. But Sweeps, is that mentalist as in Derren Brown mentalist, or mentalist as in Alan Partridge mentalist? Go away, you're a mentalist, or rip your bloody head off. I love that episode. Help me, somebody. It was Jed, the obsessed fan. That's good. I'm your biggest fan, Alan. All right. Now, I'm from a Roman Catholic family, but I feel neutral towards this. I don't, I'm not going to like cheer or anything when the Pope pops off, but I feel quite neutral towards it because I'm from a Roman Catholic family. My parents were quite liberal. My mother was brought up by my grandparents, who were horrible. They were very devout, and they forced her to go to mass and things like that, and she hated it. And they were like very devout. My mother was quite liberal. My dad converted when he married her. They didn't have me baptized as a result of their liberal ideas to do with religion. I chose to be baptized at the age of 17. There was some complicated family issues involved in this as well, because there's my biological, I don't want to go into detail, but there's my biological parents and my other parents, but I won't go into detail about that. But I chose to be baptized, and and then I kind of lapsed. But you know what? I understand why people feel the way they do, because when I went on a pilgrimage to Lourdes for 3 years running. That's in the south of France. I went 3 years. I went to that, and it was a very powerful emotional event. Also, I experienced it again more recently when I went on the March for Life a couple of years ago. Do you remember the March for Life? Because when we were saying prayers, we were walking along saying the Hail Mary and things like that. Still waiting for BZ Garson to arrange this meeting with these women. Come on, BZ. It's been how many years now? I'll never let him forget that. When I started saying those prayers, the Hail Mary and the Our Father, when I was marching along with those people, and you remember I interviewed David? I interviewed David Curtin. Do you remember I met David Curtin and interviewed him? I did feel something at that moment, which you might call religious. This doesn't mean I'm going to go back to the church. I have been to mass a couple of times just to see what it's like, but I understand how people feel. I do. I understand how people feel. I really do. Okay, I'm just going to go back to your comments. Yes, I went on the pilgrimage to Lourdes. Yes, that's quite something. I wouldn't go back. On the third time I went, I didn't enjoy it so much. Red Snapper, would you ever consider entering ministry, Ben? No, I don't think I would. I know loads of people like who sort of. It's weird because there's a lot of people in the conspirasphere and in the distant right. I think a disproportionate number go into a monastery. It's really weird, especially the young ones. They get into like distant right circles or the conspirasphere. Of course, there's a big overlap there, and they end up in a monastery. But I'm not one of them. Observer. Do you have the mark of the beast on the back of your neck? Oh man, you've been watching The Omen. There we go. Oh, Observer. Does the devil exist? Yes or no? Right. Okay. Well, I don't like these yes or no questions, but if you want me to say yes or no, I would say yes. Although if you're not going to make the question more nuanced, then you're now going to give me a very, very blunt interpretation of my yes reply. Like, oh Ben, you're obviously some religious fanatic who believes in sin and ducking stools and trials by fire and things like that, don't you? But yeah, the devil does exist. But unless you phrase the question in a more nuanced way, I can't give you the nuanced answer that I'd like to give you. Okay, so that's that. I'm just going through my notes here. I always think he's right. Okay, the next pope. Who will the next pope be? Now, as you know, there is a process which, luckily, as Claire has said, Cosmic Claire has made this point, that by incredible good luck or providence or whatever it might be, a major Hollywood movie has come out about this very subject, which I have been to see. It was actually the last film I went to see in the cinema, which I think was just before Christmas. It's the same video I do a bit of auditing on that boat person. Do you remember? That was fun. That was great fun. But the conclave. But of course, there is a process for selecting a new pope, which I describe in the Conclave movie. Yeah, Conclave 2024 film by Edward Berger, a political thriller. The College of Cardinals, under the leadership of its dean, Thomas Lawrence, that's Ralph Fiennes' character, convenes to elect his successor. There are 4 leading candidates: Aldo Bellini, and it gives you the list of them. and it gives you a brief thing of the whole how it works here. Let's just look at the College of the Cardinals, it's called. And it talks about here a papal conclave. All right, so it says here, papal conclave is a gathering of the College of Cardinals convened to elect a Bishop of Rome, also known as the Pope. Catholics, okay, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Concerns around political interference, here we go, led to reforms after the interregnum of 1268 to 1271. All right, so the conspiracies associated with the Vatican are nothing new. Yeah. But it's just the film actually is really educational. I would go and watch Conclave because it describes what they do. They basically get locked in the Sistine Chapel, and they literally they are locked inside, and they're only allowed out literally if there's a fire or something. So nothing is left open except the fire exit. Everything else is locked, and they have to stay in there basically until they're allowed out to go back to their rooms to sleep. But apart from that, they just sit in there, and it's completely private. They even have like anti-eavesdropping devices everywhere, so anti-espionage devices, because like the spies have very, very clever ways of eavesdropping. So basically, the Sistine Chapel is turned into a skiff, special compartmentalized information facility, just like the ones that David Grush and Lou Elizondo go into. And it's turned into a skiff they put special covers on the windows. You may wonder why they need to do that, because the windows are closed, so no one can hear through. Well, you can hear through a closed window if you have the right equipment. If you have the right kind of bug, the right kind of electronic eavesdropping mechanism, you can fire a laser beam at the window pane. And when people speak, when I'm speaking now, the window panes of my home are vibrating, because the sound waves of my voice are being picked up. They basically are making everything around me vibrate. Even the walls vibrate a tiny bit. When my mum used to shout at me, the walls vibrated an awful lot, believe me. But the window frame vibrates to the extent where it can actually be detected by a microphone, which is a special microphone which consists of a laser beam pointing at the window. The vibration on the window causes the laser beam to vibrate, which then can be detected by basically a modulator inside a machine. These are used an awful lot, and this is why if you go to, say, for example, the Battelle Memorial Institute, which actually came up, I made a really good pair of videos. Do you remember that video? I love these videos. I love them. They're some of my favorites, and they're quite recent. Yeah, I describe it in detail here. Reddit Scientist Livestream and Catastrophic D on Reddit. I mentioned the Battelle Memorial Institute, and then and Fort Detrick. If you can even see it on Google Street View. If you go to Google Street View, you can actually see that the windows of that have these anti-tampering devices, these anti-espionage devices on them already, permanently attached to the window, so that it can't. Basically, it's a second pane of glass with a vacuum between them. So, like, it's separated. The vibration is therefore separated from the outside world. Yeah. Claire says, but we are heavily dependent on tech. Already heavily dependent on tech, which weakens us. I spend as much time in my garden as possible. A garden is a lovesome thing. God, what? Yes. So, who will be the next pope? I don't know. Right, but what will happen is there will be several. Observer says, Lenny Henry will be the next pope. Katanga. Totally crucial, man. Oh man, he used to be so funny before he became an idiot. He used to be so funny. But what will happen is there'll be certain candidates who are considered the most popular, and then there'll be supporters and opponents of those, and then they will then have they'll have a vote. They basically have a vote, and the film, honestly, literally, the film Conclave can't give you a better education and more summary. I might actually watch that. I might watch it again if it's available online anyway. I might watch it again. It gives you a good summary of the whole process, and you basically they vote. They write. It is a paper ballot. You write a name on a piece of paper, put it in a box. These are then counted, and they just keep doing this until eventually, what happens is if they get like a split vote, a hung parliament or a hung result, one of the candidates has to drop out, and then there's two more left. It's a kind of proportional representation things, and then eventually they're left with just two, and they vote, and the person who gets the majority then is declared the next pope. And as Tolkien study here, there's the smoke. Yes, the smoke from the right. A puff of white smoke knocks me. Oh, they were talking about the smoke. I don't think that's the smoke we're talking about. Tolkien study. I'm from Jamaica, says now. All right, cool. Nice for you. Well for you. They at the end of each session in the Sistine Chapel, before the doors are unlocked, they light the fire in the hearth, and they use different coloured smoke. So black smoke means they haven't come to a decision, and they open the door and let them out, and they go to their rooms and they come back later. If they come back they eat dinner, they come back the following day, and then the conclave continues until they get a result. It can take a long time. In the film The Conclave, it takes several days. And then when they have a decision, they release white smoke from the chimney, and then they open the doors and they say, "This guy is." Then it becomes the new pope. Immediately, he's crowned pope, and he does an address from the St. Peter's. This happened with Pope Francis after the abdication of Benedict XVI. As I've discussed with Kevin Annett, papal resignations are extremely rare. Benedict was the second. He was the second in history that there's ever been a papal abdication in 2,000, almost 2,000 years of the church. It's incredible. But let's. I'll just pull up some stills from Conclave. The Conclave movie. Here we go, and you can just see them here. The best thing to do. I'm not going to play any videos from it or clips, because then you end up being. I get a copyright strike. But you can see these various things. Yeah, that's the young newcomer. That's Ralph Fiennes there casting his vote. Here were the major characters. Here's some publicity shot. That's Stanley Tucci. And there is Ralph Fiennes. That is John Lithgow. Yeah, I don't know who she is, but there's quite a lot of famous actors and actresses in it. Nice camera work. It's very well filmed. It's a good movie. Now, someone said, "Will the next pope be black?" That's a good question, because there was a Nigerian in the film. There was a Nigerian candidate, yeah, and he's one of the conservatives. So it's very politically incorrect, because one of the kind of reactionary conservatives, right, the one who's sort of anti-gay and things like that, right, he's not white. That's very politically incorrect. Very politically incorrect to say that. Of course, it is accurate, because if you go through the countries of the world and ask them which of them are the least tolerant of homosexuality, right at the top, right at the bloody top of the pile, you get like Kenya, you get Uganda, you get Tanzania. Central Africa is one of the worst places in the world to be gay. And you know what? There's no white people there, though, or very, very, very few white people. And so all the lefties go nuts because there's so few white people there. It does not compute. Does not compute. There we go. Here we go. Ben, says David, if you have, which of course you don't have to, what is the best movie you've ever watched in your life? I can answer that very simply. I'm happy to answer it, David. It's Cloud Atlas. That is simply my favourite movie. There's others that are close seconds. Tolkien study Isabella Rossi's the Rossellini. That's her. Thanks, Tolkien. Yeah. Observer says this time it will be black goo and not black smoke as they elect Miles Johnston as the next pope. I can just see it now. Miles in his in the old white cassock and white skull cap. He comes out on the balcony. He goes, and then he makes his formal address to all the people in the square of the Vatican, televised across the world, and he says, "There are scuttlers in this place, and you need to watch out for those feckin' black goose scuttlers." Tolkien study loves Cloud Atlas. Yeah, it is so good, Cloud Atlas. Yeah. Oh, David, please give it a watch, because it's a freebie on Amazon at the moment, in Britain anyway. It's a freebie on Amazon. or Netflix. I can't remember. I can't actually get Netflix at the moment. I've been locked out of my Netflix account for some reason. I'll have to watch it on the bleeding TV if Ahmad and Hossan will get out of the way for 5 minutes. Oh, the people fast blast! I've got to go inside now and do a live stream. I can't talk to you people all day. I'm in edit lockdown. Pope Miles the First. Oh, Tolkien says I've got rare Cloud Atlas promotional items signed by the cast. Yeah, Tolkien study. It's really, it's a remarkable film. It was almost cancelled actually because they went bankrupt. The production companies went bankrupt. It's the highest budget independent film in history apparently. But I'm so glad they finished it because it's bloody good. It's bloody good. I've got the DVD. I've got the DVD of it, but it is a freebie actually on Amazon. And of course, like all things, it has proliferated. Tolkien's. Yeah, you're a man of my spirit. You have no idea how much I adore that film. I cry every time I watch it. Me too. It is so good. I laugh and I cry. It's fantastic. It's so good. It's definitely my favorite movie. Although there were like some close seconds. All right then. We're nearly at the end of my notes. Right. Who will be the next pope? Will there be a next pope? How many of you hit me with a Y, as Stefan Molyneux says? Hit me with a Y. Hit me with a Y. All right. Hit me with a Y if you think St. Malachi's prophecy is real. Because if it's real, there won't be a next pope. Claire says, are you channeling James Nesbitt? James Nesbitt, who's that? I recognise the name. I can't think of who it is right now. Oh, Green Sea, I missed the name of the movie. Cloud Atlas. Which one? We've been discussing Conclave and Cloud Atlas. Putin will nuke Rome. I don't think he will. No, but he did. According to the prophecy, the city will be destroyed. But it's not just. No, he won't. It won't be the nuclear destruction of Rome. It'll be far worse than that. It's literally the apocalypse, the end times. Oh, one of Thorin's. Oh, right. Was that one of Thorin's? Oh, that was in the Hobbit. Yeah. Oh, the Hobbit movie. Yeah, that was Peter Jackson's Hobbit. Yeah. Thorin Oakenshield. Yeah. But yeah, what happens when it comes to the end times is is basically it is the subject of an entire talk I've done. I will not repeat it because this would be literally a 4-hour live stream, and I've got to go to work tomorrow, so I'm not going to go on much longer. But you can find it. I do discuss it here in various videos. Oh, the Lights Willow is here. Hello, Lights Willow. How are you? Where are you? Welcome, Lights Willow. I'll tell you something you never hear about Cloud Atlas. Yeah, please do. Oh, I will. I'll come back in a minute to that. Thank you very much. But there's this Apocalypse Soon. Now, the videos have been removed from YouTube because of a stupid, pointless copyright issue, but it's still available on Alt Tech. And it was also the subject of, where is it? Oh, for some reason it's in the current one. I don't know why that is. Oh, it's because, I see. It's because it's in the links column. This particular video, which is a great, I love this video. This is my 8th appearance at Truth Seekers Northeast from 2023. It's a subject, it's in part 2 of that film. But I've done an entire talk about the end times, Apocalypse Soon, and the other one. Oh, what's this? Tolkien says Ben Whishaw was interviewed by Bret Easton Ellis and taught him the Cloud Atlas sextet. Oh, right, I didn't know that Tolkien study, but I mean the soundtrack is wonderful. The score is wonderful. The album, the album sold. It's sold more copies than the bloody film has, I think. Yes, Tolkien says the vinyl that Halle Berry's character hears in the record shop. Yeah. Oh, you've got the record. Oh, cool. Because yeah, because there's a connection between all the scenarios over this 500-year period and they reincarnate into different bodies. Yeah, it's a fantastic film. Now, where is it? what the end what the end times consist of depends on your beliefs, and there's lots and lots of different ideas. You may be familiar with the rapture, which this is literally, it comes from one of the Thessalonians passages in the Bible, and I think it's the fourth letter to the Thessalonians, where they describe about being picked up, which is literally what is the Latin word means. It comes from the Latin word that is translated as rapture, where people are literally picked up. You might have seen the various movies like Left Behind, which I won't show you any of them because of this YouTube stupid copyright thing. YouTube doesn't understand fair use, unfortunately. But basically, people just vanish. Even their clothes are left behind with a pile on the ground. Oh, thanks, Sweeps. Give it a like and thumbs up. Yeah, I've got 32 viewers. And nothing as it seems says, yes, Atlantic breaching the Straits of Gibraltar. Yeah, flood myths and things like that. But I mean, the end times myth is equally the idea of end times is equally popular around the world. It's equally archetypal, because every culture has its own idea about the end times. Now, the idea of the rapture actually it's not doctrine in Anglicanism, Roman Catholicism, Eastern Orthodox. It's not a doctrine there. In fact, it is literally confined to the evangelical Protestantism of North America. So it's in very few Christians actually believe that, but it's a popular idea in among these very religious people in North America. And there's all sorts of, you get the second coming of Christ. There's this series of books called Left Behind. I've actually, believe it or not, I've read them all. God, I put them on audio books. I couldn't read. I didn't have time to read them literally, but I do discuss it. These I think there are 14 of these bloody books, which talk. And the Left Behind movie with Nicolas Cage is kind of based on that. There's actually an earlier movie which is very, very similar. But there were different ideas. For example, I mean, Islam has its own vision with the Mahdi, and the idea of the Mahdi and the people who thought they were the Mahdi. And then the Abu Dawud Hadith talks about like the beginnings of, what's it called? Masih ad-Dajjal, the fake Messiah. This could be equivalent of the anti-Pope. And then there's the Jews that believe that the Jews have this idea of their Messiah. And this was the basis of most of the jokes in the life of Brian. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. And then there's there is the Hindus who believe in a cycle and in the cyclical vision of the world. And there's the Maitreya from Buddhism. So what if there is going to be an end times? I mean, the idea is, if something is so universal, it probably refers to something objectively real. But what form will it take? No one really knows. But also there's secular visions like Marxism and things like that have their own secular version of that. It is a universal archetype. So what we're facing now with the prophecy of St. Malachi and the possibility that we're about to see the death of the last pope is just one version of a multitude of possible scenarios for how the world might end. And DJ says the current pope could be considered to be the anti-pope due to his Jesuit connections. Well, the leader of the leader of the Jesuit order he's called the Black Pope, isn't he? Do you remember there was this guy on the old David Icke forum who was obsessed with the Jesuits? I mean, his name was Too Tough. I remember TUFF, number 2 TUFF. He was a very regular contributor to the original David Icke forum. And we all got to know him quite well, but he was absolutely obsessed with the Jesuits. He regarded the Jesuits the way Michael Shrimpton regards the Germans. Basically, the entire New World Order was caused by the Jesuits. But so if this is the last pope about to die, and then when he's gone, that's it. Judgment Day, the second coming, the rapture, apocalypse, etc., Armageddon. That's only one of an absolute plethora, an array of different other possible end time scenarios. They all have a lot in common. As I said, it's a universal archetype, so therefore it probably does refer to something real. However, we don't know it's going to be this specific one. And therefore, if you want to know more, I'm not going to repeat all the points I make in my Apocalypse Soon video, but you need to go and watch that. It's about 2 hours, and I'm very proud of it. It's very good. I never thought I would ever get to perform it live, so I did like a studio version first, but I have done it a couple of times live. Yeah. Right, guys. So I think the best thing we can do is ask old Grok, can't we? Let's ask Grok. So how do we start asking it? Let's start again. Okay, who will be the next Pope? And it's not Nick Pope. Oh, right, we've got 15 web pages. Right, this is the source. It's impossible to say for certainty who will be the next Pope. The process hinges on the papal conclave, where cardinals under 80, I suppose if they're over 80, they're gaga, aren't they? You might as well bring Joe Biden along. Yeah, they gather in the Sistine Chapel after Pope Francis either dies or resigns, something that could happen tomorrow or years from now, given his current health challenges at the age of 88. As of today, February the 25th, 2025, he's still alive, battling a respiratory infection, but no succession is imminent. The speculation, though, is in full swing. Names like Cardinal Pietro Parolin, who's this? Let's have a look at this chap. Let me just cut and paste that. Who's this? Cardinal Pietro. That's this chap. Could he be the next Pope? Let's have a look at his wiki. Can you see that, guys? Yeah, you can. Come on. Right, he's quite young, born 1955. He's quite young to be Pope. This chap. He has served as Vatican Secretary of State since 2013, a member of the Council of Cardinals. He's from. Let's see. Born in the province of. Is this Italy? Yes, it's from Venice. Yeah, it's from the Venice region. He's Italian, and it just goes through his. It just goes through his various things here. Right. There's Cardinal Luis Angeli Tagli from the Philippines. All right. Let's have a look at this chap. I'll go straight to his wiki. Here we go. This chap here, Filipino. Which one? Does he say which one? Filipinos always say, which one? They answer every question, which one? I know, because a lot of my brother porters are for Filipinos, yeah. He's from 1957, so he's younger. He's even younger. And he is the Archbishop of Manila. They're very religious in the Philippines. I know that they are very. They are, what's the word? They're Roman Catholics and they're very devout. Early life and studies, priesthood, and it gives you a list of it. This is coat of arms, various positions. That is his church in Manila. So he might end up being. I don't think they've had a Filipino pope before. Cardinal Fridolin Ambrogo Bezungu. He's from the Democratic Republic of Congo. This is the black one, I presume. This is I wonder if they were inspired, because the black character in the conclave inspired by this chap. This is the other cardinal here. Again, 1960. They're getting younger and younger. So this guy could be this guy could be Pope if he's elected. He could be Pope for a long time. It gives you his life story here. Gives you his career. So it could be him. Cardinals created by Francis, right? He was appointed by Pope Francis. Cardinal Raymond Burke. That's a very that's quite a sort of like cozy, familiar name, following the ones we've had before. A very easy to pronounce kind of like English name. Raymond Leo Burke. This is a guy. This is him. He looks cheerful, doesn't he? Born 30th of June 1948, American prelate in Catholic Church, bishop and cardinal, so it might be him. I think which one is chosen will, like with the film Conclave, it will depend on for political reasons based on because this is described as an American arch conservative, so he'd be the equivalent of the Tedesco figure in Conclave. So he would represent maybe a regression to more conservative positions in the Vatican. The reality, conclaves are unpredictable. History is full of front-runners who fizzled. Think of the saying, he who enters the conclave a pope leaves a cardinal. Francis has stacked the deck, appointing over 78% of the 140 cardinal electors, but that doesn't guarantee a clone of his vision. That's very poetic for a chatbot. The Holy Spirit, as Catholics believe, guides the vote and human dynamics, alliances, rivalries, last-minute surprises, often upend expectations. John Paul I and II were not papabile, that's a good word, until they won. Papabile. So who's next? It could be one of these names, someone off the radar entirely. The only sure bet is we won't know until the white smoke rises. Right. Well, there's your answer, guys. There's your answer. Unless, of course, we were wrong about St. Malachi. And he actually was right all along. In which case, as they say on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, last orders, please. Now, I don't know if I'll do another live stream or video when the Pope dies. It all depends. It all depends how soon it is after. I mean, he may make a complete recovery. He may go back to his normal duties. He might live for a couple more years. But at the age of 88, with his health conditions, he won't last another decade, I don't think. So this subject will come up again. Whether, like I said, I don't know whether I'll cover it. It all depends on the circumstances. Don't panic, yes. 42. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is great. I'm going to call it a night, guys. I'm just going to say goodbye to everyone. And thank you all for being a part. Is Trump the last? That'd be good, wouldn't it? You can imagine the things he'd say on his... All right, now, Tolkien thinks that the Stanley Tucci character in Conclave is based on Pope Francis. Maybe. It could be. And there's no doubt, like, for example, fictional characters are based on real people. If you ever see Don't Look Up, which is it's a very funny black comedy, it's actually extremely misanthropic, but it did make me laugh. That character is very obviously, there's a character who's the president, played by someone whose name I can't think of. Remind me what her name is. The one who always plays bad women, who plays nasty women in films. Meryl Streep. The character played by Meryl Streep, who's the president, is very obviously it's a very, very thinly disguised parody of Hillary Clinton. And indeed, so sometimes real fictional characters are based on real people. There are fictional characters in my fiction who are very, very closely based on real people. I can't tell you who they are, or who they represent, otherwise I'd be sued immediately. But yeah. So thank you very much to Tolkien Study. Thank you to DJ B2, Green Tea. Hello, I knew you were there. DJ B2, thank you very much. And we have Now. Thank you to Now. Pope Fred, yeah. Hatchie, thank you. Nothing as it seems. Cosmic Claire, thanks for doing them as moderator. Thank you very much. Sweeps Foxman, thank you very much. And we have Observer. Thank you very much for Observer. Thank you to the Lights Below. Hello. I'm meeting with the Lights Below soon. It's really nice. I've said Green Tea, haven't I? Who else is here? David. And I've said DJ B2, haven't I? And anyone else I've missed out? Thank you very much, all of you. That's much appreciated. It's been a good live stream. We don't know what's going to happen now, but the Pope, the latest news. I'll just double check. I'll just go to the latest news now in case there's a major update. Maybe he slipped away while we've been on the air. Pope Francis latest news. Right. He might have slipped away while we were on the air. 24 minutes ago. Is that the most recent one? Yes, it is. The Daily Mail. You can't beat the Daily Fail. All right. The pontiff approves sainthood from the hospital despite his critical condition. I don't believe that. I don't. That's his prognosis remains guarded. I don't know what that means. He remains in a critical but stable condition. An update this evening confirmed the pontiff's condition has not worsened after a night where the 88-year-old rested well. For the second consecutive day, thousands have gathered in St. Peter's Square to pray for his good health. Right, there's your answer, guys. And my browser's frozen. That's because all the ads on. That's because all the bloody ads on Daily Mail and the Daily Mail. I should have chosen a different one. All right, guys. So, right, what's happening now? Let's wait for my browser to unstick. All right, guys. So, new comments. Here we go. Good night. Now, good night. Nighty night. Nothing as it seems. David's Splendid Isolation was there too. Night night. Pope Pontiff runs marathon. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised they come out with something ridiculous like that. Again, this could all be bollocks, and it could be he's getting worse, and they just don't want to say so. So they say, "Oh, he phoned the Bishop of Gaza. He pointed a saint and stuff like that." Nah. Anyway, guys, we will find out, and whether I cover this subject again on Hapanmo TV will depend on what actually happens. Of course, it's possible there won't be a next time, and there won't be a future, because that's when we'll get the rapture and the end times and all things like that, and the tribulation, etc., etc. It is possible. I don't rule it out entirely. I think it's very unlikely. I don't believe the prophecy of St. Malachi really, but you never know. So whether I cover this again will depend on what happens. In the meantime, thank you for watching Hapanmo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order.